I accidentally discovered my apartment complex has been illegally renting out my garage space for 7 years. Yesterday, I got a settlement check for $804,000. For the past 7 years, I've been living in a luxury high-rise in downtown Chicago. The rent is insane, but my apartment comes with 2 parking spaces in the secure underground garage part. At least that's what my lease says. Here is the thing. I don't own a car. I work from home and just use Uber when I need to go somewhere. So I've never actually used either of my parking spaces. And a batai, I completely forgot they were even part of my lease. Last month, my buddy crashed at my place after a night out. In the morning, he asked where he could move his car to avoid a ticket. I remembered my unused parking spaces and took him down to the garage to show him where he could park space 142 and 143. I told him reading off my lease agreement. But when we got there were 2 Range Rovers already parked in my spots. I figured maybe another resident was using them by mistake, so I went to the building manager. That's when things got weird. "Oh, Mr. Reynolds," she said, looking immediately uncomfortable. "Those spaces, they're actually being utilized by our corporate partners. Since you've never used them, we assumed." "You assumed what?" I asked. "That you could rent out spaces I am paying for." She stammered something about building policy and unutilized resources and said she'd look into it. I wasn't satisfied, so I did my own digging. Wet out the building charges $450 minus per month boardings for each premium parking space. I had 2. That's $900 minus per month. They'd been collecting parent for 7 years parent while I was still paying for those spaces as part of my $3,800 monthly rent. When I confronted the property management company with this information, they offered me a free month of rent to resolve the misunderstanding. I laughed and told them I'd be speaking to an attorney. The lawyer I hired almost fell out of his chair when I showed him the documentation. Not only was the building renting out spaces I was legally entitled to, but they'd also violated about 6 different tenant laws in the process. "This is a class action gold mine," he said. "I bet they're doing this to other tenants too." He was right. After filing suit, we discovered 15 other residents in my building alone were having their unused parking spaces rented out without their knowledge, and the management company owned 12 buildings across the city doing the exact same thing. The class action lawsuit took just 8 months to settle pert lightning fast in legal terms. The property management company realized they were completely screwed and wanted to stop the bleeding before more tenants found out. My share of the settlement arrived yesterday. $804,000. That's 7 years of illegal rental fees for my 2 spaces plus damages plus interest. Tax-free. The funniest part, the building sent out a notice to all residents yesterday explaining the parking reconfiguration taking place this week. Translation: they have to give everyone back their rightful spaces and figure out what to tell the people who've been paying to use spaces that were never legally available. I've decided to use part of the money as a down payment on a condo, one with deeded parking that no one can rent out from under me. Oh, and I finally bought a car, a Tesla. Both. My spaces are now being used. Hurt her by me. Sometimes forgetting something for 7 years can be the most profitable mistake you'll ever make.